CRMs for B2B sales, outsourcing setup, why having a CRM isn't the same as using one. Most B2B teams already pay for a CRM, but the real gap is what happens after purchase. The system doesn't match how reps actually prospect, qualify, and hand off opportunities. When that happens, the CRM becomes a reporting database instead of a day-to-day operating system for your SDRs and AEs. That disconnect is why outsourcing CRM setup has become a practical move for revenue teams that need speed, accuracy, and adoption. The failure rate tells the story. Studies routinely report that 20 to 70% of CRM projects fail or underdeliver, and the root cause is usually not the software. It's weak rollout design, poor user adoption, and misaligned workflows that add friction instead of removing it. When reps don't trust the system or can't move fast inside it, they work around it, and leadership loses visibility into the pipeline. For outbound-heavy teams, especially those running a cold calling agency motion, cold email agency campaigns, or a blended outbound sales agency program, small workflow problems compound quickly. If your SDRs are living in sequences, call queues, and list-building tools all day, your CRM has to capture that activity automatically and translate it into clean stages and reliable forecasting. Otherwise, you're paying for a tool that slows down the very activities that create pipeline. Outsourcing CRM setup, a revenue decision, not an IT decision. CRM adoption is now mainstream, and competitive expectations are rising fast. Roughly 74.5% of organizations use a CRM, and adoption jumped sharply from 2023 to 2024, meaning a poorly implemented system is no longer normal, it's a competitive disadvantage. In practice, the teams winning in outbound are the teams where the CRM reflects reality and supports coaching, follow-up discipline, and handoffs. The upside is real when the implementation is aligned to your sales motion. Businesses report an average ROI of about $8.71 for every $1 invested in CRM. But that return depends on adoption and operational fit, especially around lead management, activity capture, and pipeline definitions. Outsourcing setup to specialists helps you get to that fit faster by building workflows around how your SDR agency or outsourced sales team actually works day to day. Cost control is another reason revenue leaders outsource. Companies that outsource CRM administration can cut CRM-related costs by up to 30% while improving efficiency and data quality, which is exactly what outbound teams need to avoid burning time on bad records and missed follow-ups. In other words, outsourcing isn't a luxury. It's often the most direct route to a CRM your reps will actually use. Start with a revenue blueprint and a Phase 1 scope. The most effective outsourced CRM engagements start before anyone creates fields or automations. We recommend mapping a revenue blueprint that includes lead sources, qualification rules, SDR to AE handoffs, pipeline stages, and stage exit criteria. Then, designing the CRM around those definitions. Your outsourced partner should do the technical heavy lifting, while your internal revenue leaders keep ownership of what qualified means and what each pipeline stage represents. A common mistake is trying to implement everything at once. About 43% of CRM customers use fewer than half the features they pay for, which usually means teams overbuilt early and undertrained forever. A smarter approach is a minimal Phase 1 that focuses on outbound fundamentals, accounts, contacts, lead status, activity logging, tasks, queues, opportunity stages, and a small set of dashboards. Then iterates in sprints as adoption and needs mature. Designing for SDRs first is non-negotiable. When frontline reps have click-light workflows, clear ownership rules, simple status updates, and task queues that reflect real outreach, adoption follows naturally, and executive reporting becomes a byproduct of good operations. When the opposite happens, executive dashboards first, SDR usability later, the CRM quietly dies, and your sales agency or internal team ends up managing pipeline in spreadsheets. What a smart outsourced CRM setup looks like, end to end. A solid outsourced CRM setup typically begins with structured discovery, then moves through data strategy, configuration, integrations, testing, and enablement. The goal is not a perfect system on paper. It's a system that survives real outbound usage, call blocks, bounced emails, reschedules, no-shows, requalification, and multi-threaded stakeholder outreach. That's why bundling setup with live outbound execution, whether internal or via sales outsourcing, is often the fastest path to value. Data work deserves more attention than it usually gets. Accurate data is a top priority for effective CRM use, cited by 88% of sales professionals. But migrations often import duplicates, outdated titles, and inconsistent company naming. A good partner will dedupe, normalize, and enrich before moving data, so your SDRs aren't wasting prime calling hours on wrong numbers and bounced domains, especially if you rely on B2B list building services or list building services as part of your outbound engine. From there, implementation should end with training that reflects real workflows, not generic feature tours. If your team runs B2B cold calling services, telemarketing, telesales, or multi-channel outreach, the enablement should show reps exactly how to work their queue, how to disposition outcomes, how meetings are created, and how AEs see context at the handoff. This is where outsourced specialists earn their keep. They translate how we sell into how the system behaves. A CRM only pays off when it makes your reps faster, your data cleaner, and your pipeline easier to coach. Best practices for outbound: reduce friction and increase meetings. If your CRM setup doesn't reduce rep workload, adoption will stall. The biggest giveaway is manual logging. 32% of sales reps spend an hour or more every day on data entry in CRM or sales tools, which is time they should be prospecting. Your outsourced implementation partner should prioritize automation that captures emails, calls, meetings, and sequence steps in the background while preserving reporting accuracy. Outbound teams also need consistent rules for what happens next after every touch. That means clear dispositions: connect, no answer, bad fit, reschedule, SLA timers, task queues, and meeting creation rules that prevent leads from getting stuck. When this is done well, managers can coach from real activity and conversion data, and a cold calling team or outsourced B2B sales program can scale without turning your CRM into a mess. At SalesHive, we see the difference immediately because our programs run inside clients' CRMs every day across Salesforce, HubSpot, Microsoft Dynamics, and more. As a B2B sales agency delivering cold calling services and outbound execution, we integrate outreach activity so every dial, email, reply, and booked meeting lands cleanly where your team expects it. That tight alignment is what turns CRM setup from a one-time project into a system that actively supports pay-per-meeting lead generation and predictable pipeline creation. Common mistakes that break CRM adoption and how to avoid them. The first mistake is overbuilding. Teams add required fields, custom objects, and complex validation rules before they've validated the basic outbound workflow, and reps respond by avoiding the CRM. Keep phase 1 simple, prove adoption, and only then expand, because complexity compounds fast once you add multiple territories, multiple products, or multiple SDR agencies working the same dataset. The second mistake is migrating dirty data and hoping it fixes itself later. Many companies adopt CRM early. About 65% implement one within their first 5 years. So the data you're inheriting often includes years of inconsistent naming, duplicates, and stale contacts. Outsourcing data cleanup and enrichment before migration is one of the highest leverage moves you can make, especially if your motion depends on B2B cold calling, LinkedIn outreach services, or list building at scale. The third mistake is treating governance as optional. CRM is a living system. Reps join, territories shift, routing rules change, and reporting needs evolve. The fix is operational. Maintain a shared RevOps backlog with your outsourced partner. Review changes on a recurring cadence, and set ownership for what is true in your pipeline definitions so your CRM doesn't slowly decay into broken automation and confused reporting. Optimization, reporting, coaching, and AI that actually gets used. Once Phase 1 is stable, optimization is about making performance visible and coachable. Managers need dashboards that connect activity to outcomes. Touches per day, connects, conversations, meeting set, meetings held, SQL creation, and pipeline created per SDR. When your CRM is integrated with your outbound stack, you can also break results down by campaign, persona, and list source, critical for any outbound sales agency motion where iteration speed determines results. This is also where executive reporting stops being a vanity layer and becomes a management tool. If your definitions are tight, leadership can trust conversion rates and forecast inputs, and your AEs can see the full outreach context behind each meeting. That matters because many CRM implementations fail not due to missing features, but because the system never earns credibility with the people doing the work. AI can help here, but only if it's embedded into frontline workflows instead of living in separate dashboards. The best implementations use AI to support consistent execution, prioritization, recommended next steps, and cleaner data, not to add yet another interface reps ignore. Practically, that means your outsourced setup partner should phase AI in after the core SDR workflow is adopted and the underlying data is trustworthy. How to choose a partner and what to do next. When evaluating an outsourced provider, prioritize partners who understand revenue operations and outbound execution, not just CRM configuration. A team that has actually operated cold call services, managed an outsourced sales team, or run pay-per-appointment lead generation inside a CRM will make better architectural decisions than a purely technical implementer. If you're comparing options, it's also reasonable to review external feedback like SalesHive reviews and validate scope against SalesHive pricing or any provider's pricing to ensure you're buying outcomes, not hours. Set expectations on timeline and scope from the start. For many mid-market teams, a focused Phase 1 can be delivered in weeks, not quarters, as long as discovery is structured and decisions are made quickly. The best engagements define a crisp MVP, implement integrations that eliminate manual logging, and launch with enablement that shows reps exactly how to run their day inside the system. Finally, plan for ongoing administration from day one so the system doesn't rot after go-live. Use least privilege access, require MFA, and keep a recurring backlog review so changes don't happen ad hoc. If you want a CRM that truly supports scaling outbound, whether you hire SDRs in-house, work with an SDR agency, or outsource sales through a B2B sales outsourcing partner, treat setup as the foundation, governance as the guardrails, and automation as the multiplier. And if you're exploring the space long-term, it never hurts to understand the talent behind the execution, including teams like those you'll find through SalesHive Careers.